think Ray'd like to take it for him, Brian.
Chip in there by Danny Wilson. Now Grimes. Hit the outside there, Steen! And Luton are ahead in the very last minute. It'll take a monumental effort now by Arsenal to get...
Yes, it was Brian, and it was a superb ball from Ashley Grimes, outside of his left foot. Clever ball. And I think overall, it's about right.
You might be a little biased, former Luton manager.
I hope I haven't shown that too much, Brian. It's been a good second half. It's finished.
It's finished, and Luton have won their first major trophy. Sanchez caught young Fashioner in there. Sanchez was in there. Roy Sanchez. Oh, and there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club. Wimbledon have destroyed Liverpool's dreams of the double, and all over the pitch, their players are celebrating something which a few years ago would have been impossible.
...1988 fue un año histórico para el fútbol inglés. Dos clubes modestos que entonces estaban en primera división, pero eran clubes de pequeño tamaño, clubes modestos como Wimbledon y Luton, ganaron las dos copas domésticas, la Copa de la Liga y la FA Cup, y además lo hicieron contra dos gigantes del fútbol inglés como Arsenal y Liverpool. Poco podían imaginar entonces que sus destinos quedarían entrelazados para siempre en la adversidad, vamos, en el futuro, y que apenas una década más tarde, a principios de los años 2000, uno estaría en cuarta división, el Luton, y el otro directamente habría desaparecido, el Wimbledon, y que además ambos serían traicionados por la FA y la federación inglesa, que supuestamente debía velar por sus intereses.
You have very, very good football teams, but you also need a very, very good football club and a football business that runs that football club. And I don't think Luton back then used to have a very good team, but I don't think the infrastructure at that time was strong enough to uphold that for a good long period of time. So to give you an idea where I'm coming from, I think since that period, during the 90s and early 2000s, there were more owners of the football club than there were managers. So this kind of turmoil, this disruption, doesn't lay the foundations, and sometimes you need a stable platform, a real stable platform for a football club to then grow and prosper and stabilise itself, for the team to stabilise. And I don't think Luton had that stability back then.
Why did it go downhill? I think the problem really came out of the report following Hillsborough and Bradford, the Taylor report. The requirement that all football clubs in the top two levels at least should be all-seater, which clearly wasn't feasible at Plough Lane. And therefore there's a need to find a new stadium. There's then a lot of, this is not my expertise, not my expert area, but then there's a lot of debate and discussion around what was actually available and what could have been done. But in the end what happened was the then owner, Sam Hammam, sold the club, persuaded the council to give up a covenant which said it could not be sold or used for other purposes, persuaded them to give that up, sold it and moved in ground shed at Crystal Palace. Any football club that doesn't own its own stadium will eventually run onto the rocks. Where's its income coming from other than football itself? I mean, it's probably a bit different now given how much money Premier League clubs get just for being in the Premier League, but at the time it is just not possible to survive without the other associated income that you get, and Wimbledon didn't have that.
The previous owners not only racked up huge debts for the football club, the club was losing over £500,000 per month when it went into administration in 2007. It was overspending, but actually also it wasn't operating by the rules of the game. So the FA and the Football League, over a course of a 2-year period, gave the football club 40 points deduction. So how can a football club survive that? So there were 2 relegations on the back of another one from the Championship. So in a 3-year period we were going from sitting 4th in the Championship at one particular moment, looking at potential Premier League again, down into a relegation to the Conference and out of the Football League.
Yes, we were treated badly by the FA. The FA got it wrong, really. They initially rejected the request to move Wimbledon FC to Milton Keynes, but then under challenge, and arguably because they didn't feel willing to take on a legal challenge, they basically washed their hands of it and passed it off to a commission of 3 people, 2 of whom, in my view, were just not suitable people to make a decision. But it was agreed that the commission would make a decision and that the decision would be unappealable. So the FA, they just pushed it away. It's nothing to do with us. I mean, no wonder they're making a film about it, because it's the classic story of the little guy against the machine, or against the authorities, and that's what we've done. We're just ordinary football fans who've managed to build their own club.
El Luton es un club que ha sufrido unos vaivenes deportivos considerables en los últimos 20-30 años. En 1992, justo la temporada antes de que arrancara la Premier League, descendieron a segunda división, y en 2001 habían sumado 2 descensos más para acabar en cuarta división. Luego vivieron una época de, digamos, falsa recuperación y regresaron a segunda división en 2005, pero aquello fue el principio del fin. La pésima gestión de la directiva de entonces y el desastre de ITV Digital provocaron que se endeudaran y acabaran sufriendo varios descensos y varias sanciones de puntos hasta acabar por primera vez en la historia del club en quinta división en 2009, después de comenzar la temporada con una deducción de 30 puntos, la más alta de la historia del fútbol profesional inglés. A día de hoy el club y sus aficionados sigue considerando que aquella sanción, que a efectos prácticos prácticamente les condenaba al descenso, fue una sanción excesivamente dura de la federación.
Well, the objective of establishing the Supporters Trust back then was a bizarre one, because we had an owner of the football club that we didn't want to be the owner, who was gradually killing the football club. He was anonymous at the time, so we managed to achieve that objective. And yes, we got rid of the owner at the time by finding a debenture and using it against him, as he didn't really have any cash to pay that debt, so we used it. And bizarrely, we put the football club into administration. So this is an interesting turn of fate, in that the supporters, in order to protect the survival of the football club, put the club into administration. So that was back in 2002. We had to pick up those pieces, and unfortunately the authorities, wrongly in our view, very, very strongly, we feel that the authorities should have recognised that it was a supporters-led group that was coming back in to try and save the football club. And I think generally this is recognised now to be the harshest penalty in football on any single football club, to have, particularly that year where we had 20 points from the Football League and 10 points from the FA. So that is really what killed us, and it killed a lot of people's spirit, and took some time for us to regroup again after that. But we had to do that in the conference, in the football conference. Whereas most of you all know that there's really no funding at all in place for clubs like ourselves.
El caso del Wimbledon no tiene precedentes en el fútbol inglés. A finales de los años 90, el entonces propietario Sam Hammam vendió el club a 2 empresarios noruegos que solicitaron a la federación que autorizar la reubicación del club en Milton Keynes, una ciudad comercial, industrial, que está prácticamente a 100 kilómetros del hogar original del Wimbledon, Plough Lane, en el sur de Londres. En 2002 la federación nombró una comisión formada por 3 personas que, contra todo pronóstico, autorizó la reubicación del club, y así fue como desapareció el Wimbledon FC y nació el Milton Keynes Dons. Fue entonces cuando un grupo de aficionados del Wimbledon original de toda la vida decidió formar su propio club, y aquel mismo verano de 2002 arrancó el AFC Wimbledon en 9ª división.
There were 4 guys who in particular I think formed the club, and I always wish I could say I was one of them. You know, I'd be so proud that I was one of the founders of the club. I always describe myself as being just one step behind. They, 2 of them at least, had been with the club when it was non-league and seen it through the old non-league days before it got into the Football League in 1977 up to the top, and had seen this story. And as it became clear that there were difficulties around, we probably might not win the case, well, the conversation I think turned to, well, we could always start again, which was, I think, initially almost a romantic, idealistic view that, yeah, you know, like these Hollywood movies where the impossible happens. But then when it became clear, I think we got a day's notice that the decision had gone against us. I think they sat down and took it seriously, and the 4 of them swung into action, and I joined in about a day or 2 later, doing the finances for them, into creating a club, getting it registered, finding a league to play in, holding a meeting of all the fans to get support and demonstrate that we were going to do it. And they, with support from me, made it happen in the space of extraordinarily small space of time. I think the decision was announced on the 28th of May, and by the 12th of June we had a registered football club. And within about 4 or 5 weeks of that, we were playing our first friendly game with a team selected partly from trials on Wimbledon Common. Anybody could turn up.
And I also believe Wimbledon were let down by that 3-man ban. Absolutely, you know, there is, I think, one of the most, you know, shocking decisions in football was to create a franchise monster, and it is a monster. And you know, that's something that the Football League have openly admitted that shouldn't really happen again. The FA have admitted shouldn't really happen again, but it has done. And you know, Wimbledon and Luton Town in some ways are kindred spirits. Actually, we're very good friends as football clubs, and we've had very similar turbulent times. And in some ways, it's a bit of a race to try and get back to the position we feel comfortable in.
And then from then on, it was, I'd done a budget for a club to move here as a rented agreement on an average gate of 1,000. Because I'm conservative, I'm an accountant initially, I took it cautiously. And in our first season we averaged just over 3,000 people. They were paying, the adult entry price was £9. We were paying the players £30 a week. We made a massive profit. And that helped in part to fund the purchase of this club, this stadium. So I don't know why we actually imagined we could do it, you know. When you look back at it and you think, what on earth made us think we could really do this? But we never doubted it, and here we are.
En 2011 el destino quiso que Luton y Wimbledon se enfrentaran en la final del playoff de ascenso a League 2, la 4ª división. Unos años antes, creo que hacia 2003, si no recuerdo mal, hubo un extraño intento de fusión de los 2 clubes que finalmente quedó en nada. En aquella ocasión, en aquella final de Conference, en 2011 el Wimbledon empató a 0 con el Luton y acabó conquistando el ascenso en penaltis. Lo que pasa es que ambos seguirían ascendiendo a las temporadas siguientes, el Wimbledon hasta la League 1, donde se encuentra actualmente, y el Luton hasta League 2, donde está en estos momentos. Y el futuro de ambos clubes es prometedor porque ambos, una vez más, su futuro también está unido, están planificando y tienen muy avanzada la construcción de sendos estadios.
You've probably heard the famous quote from the FA Commission report that creation of a new football club by the fans would not be in the wider interests of football. In what way has it not been in the wider interests of football? It's been great for football, great for the community, great for everybody involved. And we'll see how far we can get. I personally believe we can get to the championship, the second level. Beyond that, well, we'll give it a go, won't we?
If we first of all look at the year 2020, which is when it's quite a poignant time, poignant year for us. In an ideal world, we'd be kicking off in a brand new stadium in the Championship, and that's entirely feasible. We have planning applications in with our local council for not just a football stadium, but an awful lot of enabling and facilitating development to give that our football club not just a very, very firm, sound, stable base, but actually some other income that comes into the football club, which means football clubs outside of the Premier League generally lose money. This means our football club won't lose money if we get this right. The second thing I think is in terms of football success, we should certainly in that period of 2020-2025 we should be toying with the idea of getting into the Premier League at least once.
I think the stadium may well be finished by the end of 2018, calendar 2018, maybe early 2019. The football fan in me screams out, you should not move during a season. It's just not right. I don't know why it's not right, it just doesn't feel right. The businessman says, well, why not? So there's a debate to be had if we manage to stay on schedule. If not, we'll be starting in the summer of 2019. We'll have, all this is new to me, but when you open a new stadium, you have a couple of ramp-up games very small, just to check that all the doors open and the exits work and the turnstiles work. But then we'll have our big sort of set-piece pre-season friendly in July 2019. I usually say, and this is a joke, perhaps we can play the second most famous fan-run club in the world, Barcelona. That would be good, wouldn't it? But I mean no insult to Barcelona fans when I say that. It is a joke. But or maybe Liverpool, because of the FA Cup. I don't dream much, because you have to just keep your feet on the ground. But I like to think about what that day is going to look like when the ground's full of all our fans and many of our former players and heroes. And I think then we will be back in the same street where we came from, Plough Lane, just the other end of the street. We'll be back in League One, maybe even the Championship. Wow, what a story that'll be.
For League Two, it's Danny Cadwell.